My name is Liam Carter. People have always said I'm closed off, like a rock. Then I met Stella Rowan, this strange, vibrant woman. She just crashed right into my stagnant life without a second thought. I told her I didn't need anyone, but she just smiled and said, "Liam, you just need to be properly loved." And I was the one who ended up letting my guard down first. I dreamed of the stairwell again. Dark, damp. I was all alone. The feeling of being unable to breathe was like a tide, slowly rising from my feet. Then I woke up. The room was dead silent, save for the faint hum of the air conditioner. Outside, the sky was a hazy, pre-dawn gray. I fumbled for my phone. 5:07 a.m. Fine, I wasn't going back to sleep. My head felt heavy when I got up, like a hangover, though I hadn't had a drink in a long time. I walked to the kitchen and splashed my face with cold water. The icy sting tightened my skin. The man in the mirror looked pale, with faint, dark circles under his eyes. He looked like a stranger. Today I had to drop off some illustrations at the magazine's office. It was the work that barely kept me afloat. I packed up my Wacom tablet and laptop and was out the door by 7. The elevator descended, the numbers flashing one by one. I felt no anticipation, no resistance. This was just how life was. One day was no different from the next. At the entrance to my apartment complex, I bought an Americano black. The bitterness helps you wake up. While waiting for the bus, I saw a stray cat by the side of the road, skinny as a rail. It glanced at me once before vanishing into the bushes. The bus wasn't crowded. I found a seat by the window. I put on my headphones, listening to some melody-less post-rock. The bus swayed along its route. The magazine was on the east side of town, a 7-stop ride. My editor was a bit of a talker, always full of revision requests. But at least she paid on time. I got off at my stop. Walking toward the office building, I noticed a new flower shop next door. A girl had her back to the door, standing on her toes to miss the plants on a high shelf. She wore a simple white t-shirt and jeans, the sleeves casually rolled to her elbows. Her movements were quick and efficient. I didn't stare, just went straight into the elevator. The air freshener inside was too strong, almost choking. I rubbed my nose. After turning in the files, I was as expected, hit with a list of changes. "Liam, for this one, could you make the protagonist's expression a little more melancholic? Is the background tone a bit too cold?" I just nodded a few times without saying much. It was easier to just do what she said. Arguing was pointless. Once the revisions were done, I'd get the rest of my payment. It was almost noon when I left the magazine. The sun was getting hot. I debated whether to head straight home or find a place to eat. As I passed the flower shop, I glanced inside without thinking. The girl was now kneeling on the floor, arranging a bundle of fresh, small white flowers. The petals were tiny, delicate-looking. She was turned to the side, her nose slightly upturned, and there were tiny beads of sweat on her forehead. Sunlight streamed through the glass door, dyeing her hair a light chestnut brown. She must have felt my gaze because she suddenly turned her head. Her eyes were so bright, they seemed to be full of water. She smiled at me, revealing a hint of her teeth. "Buying flowers." I was taken aback for a second, then shook my head. "Just looking." The moment I said it, I felt like an idiot. Who just looks at a flower shop? She didn't seem to mind, just went back to trimming the stems. "These are freesias. They smell amazing." She said it as if to herself, but also to me. I stood at the doorway, not sure whether to enter or leave. The air was a mix of different floral scents, but it was pleasant. "Just got them in today. Super fresh." She looked up at me again, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "Want to get a bouquet for your girlfriend?" I answered instinctively. "I don't have a girlfriend." The words were out before I could stop them. Why was I telling a complete stranger this? She seemed to find it amusing and laugh. "Well, you can always buy them for yourself. They'll brighten your day." I shook my head, ready to leave. "No, thanks." She didn't press. She just waved. "Come back anytime you need some." I walked away quickly, feeling a little baffled. But that smile, it seemed to linger in my mind for a moment. For the next few days, I made a point to avoid the street with the flower shop. No need to invite unnecessary complications. I'm not good at dealing with people that enthusiastic. Life returned to its usual track. Drawing, grocery shopping, the occasional trip to the gym to sweat it out. My days were as calm as a stagnant pond. Until Friday night, when loud music and laughter started coming from the apartment next door. The new neighbor must be throwing a party. The walls were thin, and the low thrum of the bass was making my temples throb. Noise-canceling headphones didn't help. I tried to read, but I couldn't focus on a single word. I was getting irritated. By 11, the noise still hadn't stopped. I took a deep breath, opened my door, and walked over. I knocked on my neighbor's door. After several knocks, the door finally opened. A wave of alcohol and food smells hit me. And the person who opened the door was her. The girl from the flower shop. Her face was flushed with the excitement of the party. She froze when she saw me. Then her eyes lit up. "Hey, it's you." She seemed even more alive than she had in the shop. Her hair was a little messy, tied back loosely. She was wearing oversized sweats with some weird cartoon character on them. "Oh, sorry, we're being a little loud." She spoke first, a hint of apology in her voice. "We're disturbing you, aren't we? We'll turn it down right now." Her attitude was so nice that I couldn't get angry. "Yeah, thanks." I said my piece and turned to leave. "Hey, wait." She called out to me. Since we already bothered you, why don't you come in for a bit? Have a drink." Her eyes held a kind of pure, unadulterated enthusiasm. I frowned. "No, that's okay. Don't be a stranger. We're all friends here." As she said this, she actually reached out and grabbed my arm. The gesture was so natural, with a force that wouldn't take no for an answer. I was practically dragged into the apartment. The place was packed. People stood or sat in small groups. They all looked over curiously when I came in. "This is my next-door neighbor, the artist." She announced it loudly, as if we were old friends. Someone raised their glass to me in greeting. I felt completely out of place. She poured me a glass of orange juice and stuck it in my hand. "I'm Stella Rowan." She looked at me, her eyes sparkling. "And I know you. You're Liam Carter, right? I saw your feature in the magazine." I was a little surprised, but just nodded. "Yeah." She sat down next to me, crossing her legs on the sofa. "You're thinner than you look in your photo." Am I? I had no idea what to say to that. She didn't seem to notice the awkwardness and just kept talking. "I just moved in last month. This place belongs to my aunt. She's overseas. Opening a flower shop has always been my dream. It doesn't make much money, but it makes me happy." The words tumbled out of her. I drank my orange juice, mostly just listening. The party did get a lot quieter. After a little while, I stood up to leave. "Thanks for the orange juice. Anytime. We're neighbors now. Come hang out whenever." She walked me to the door, her smile radiant. After I closed my own door behind me, I could faintly hear her saying, "That's my neighbor, the illustrator. He's super talented." I shook my head. What a strange person. It turned out, "come hang out whenever" wasn't just a polite phrase. The next afternoon, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. It was Stella. She was standing there holding a Tupperware container. I hesitated for a moment before opening the door. "Hi." She held up the container. "I made way too much tiramisu, and I can't finish it. Want some?" Through the clear lid, it did look pretty good. "I don't really eat sweets," I said. "Just try a bite. I'm a great baker. I promise you'll be back for more." She blinked at me pleadingly. Besides, it's no fun eating alone. In the end, the cool, heavy container ended up in my hands. "Are you free tonight?" she asked next. "Why?" "I know this new barbecue place that's amazing. Want to go?" She asked so casually, as if we'd known each other for years. Don't tell me you have to draw. Artists have to eat too, you know." She cut me off. I didn't really have any plans, and I'd already accepted her orange juice yesterday, and this dessert today. It felt wrong to refuse again. "What time?" 6:30. "I'll meet you downstairs." She spun around happily and headed back to her apartment, her steps as light as a bird's. At 6:30, I went downstairs on the dot. She was already there, wearing a floral print dress. She grinned and ran over when she saw me. "Let's go." The barbecue place wasn't far, so we walked. She talked the entire way about her flowers, about a customer from today, about the weather. I mostly listened, occasionally adding a or. She didn't seem to mind my silence, as if she just needed an audience. The restaurant was crowded, filled with the thick, savory smell of smoke. She ordered a ton of food like a regular. "Their smoked brisket is incredible. You have to try it." She handed me a piece of cornbread. I took it and had a bite. It was actually pretty good. "Are you always this quiet?" she asked, chewing on a chicken wing. "Yeah." "Why, nothing to say." She was direct, not probing, just genuinely curious. "I guess." I poked at the mac and cheese on my plate. "So what do you do by yourself all day, besides drawing?" "Nothing." That's so boring, she declared. It's not. I felt a little uncomfortable, like I was under a spotlight. Okay, she shrugged, not pushing it. Cheers. She raised her beer bottle and clinked it against my glass of iced tea. To our new neighborly friendship. I looked at her, condensation beating on the glass. Outside the window, the city lights blurred together with the noisy chatter of the restaurant. It was a strange, unreal kind of liveliness. From that day on, Stella seemed to have unilaterally decided we were friends. She would knock on my door from time to time. Sometimes it was to bring over freshly baked cookies. Other times it was to ask if I could help her move something heavy. Sometimes there was no reason at all. She'd just stop by, stand there for a minute, and chat. Liam, look at this rose bush you just got. Do you think it's dying? She stood at my door, holding a wilted-looking pot with a mournful expression. I took a look. You're overwatering it. What? But I thought it looked so thirsty. The soil is still damp. I pointed it out to her. Oh, the realization dawned on her. Well, can you look after this one for me? I think you have a greener thumb than I do. I only knew the basics, really, but the look of trust in her eyes made it hard to say no. She started bringing over all sorts of half-dead plants. Liam, help, became her catchphrase. My balcony gradually filled up with a few of her plants, which she called foster plants. She said my apartment had good vibes, perfect for plant rehabilitation. And so, my quiet space was invaded by splashes of green that weren't mine. And by her, popping in and out with her voice and her presence. One night, it started to rain, a heavy downpour that beat against the windows. I was trying to draw, but I was in a rut. Every line felt wrong. A heavy feeling settled in my chest. The doorbell rang. I knew it was her. Only she would come over at this hour without calling first. I opened the door. She was hugging a pillow, her hair slightly damp. Liam, I think I saw a person outside my living room window. Her voice was trembling, her face pale. It was probably the shadow of a tree branch, I said. No, it really looked like a person. I'm scared. The fear in her eyes didn't look fake. I sighed. Come in. She immediately darted inside, bringing a gust of damp air with her. I poured her a cup of hot water. She cupped the mug in her hands, huddled in the corner of my sofa like a frightened rabbit. Thank you. Am I bothering you? It's fine. I sat down near her and went back to reworking the lines on my tablet. The room was quiet, filled only with the sound of the rain and the scratching of my stylus. After a while, she seemed to relax. What are you drawing? She leaned in to get a closer look. She was a little too close. I could smell the faint, fruity scent of her shampoo. An illustration for the magazine. I shifted away slightly. It's beautiful, she said. It just feels a little lonely. The drawing was of a man standing on an empty street. My hand paused. I didn't say anything. She didn't ask any more questions, just sat there quietly, watching the rain fall outside. After a long time, the storm began to subside. She yawned. I think it's stopping. I should go back. She stood up. Okay. I walked her to the door. Good night, Liam. She turned back and smiled. Good night. The magazine editor set me up with a new project, a book cover and some interior illustrations for a novel. The pay was a lot better than usual, but it required meeting with the author to discuss the style. I was going to turn it down, but the editor said the author had specifically requested me. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop. When I arrived, she was already there, a quiet woman in a simple, elegant dress. She smiled when she saw me and handed me her card. The conversation went smoothly. She didn't talk much, but she expressed her ideas clearly. After we'd settled the business side of things, she suddenly asked, Mr. Carter, the people in your drawings always have a sense of detachment. My hand, stirring my coffee, stopped. They do. Yes. It's like they're watching the world through a pane of glass. She looked me in the eye. Is that how you see the world, too? The question was a bit personal. I put down my spoon. It's just a stylistic choice. She smiled, not pressing the issue. When we parted ways, she said she was looking forward to my work. On the walk back to my apartment, I thought about what she'd said. Through a pane of glass. Maybe so. As I got to my building, I saw Stella outside her shop, watering a large bird of paradise plant. She spotted me and waved enthusiastically. Liam, I walked over. Where have you been? Dressed so formally. She had my button-down shirt. Meeting a client. Okay. She put down the watering can. Perfect timing. Can you give me a hand? I can't move this big guy by myself. I helped her carry the plant into the shop. Her shop was always a bit chaotic, but in a way that felt full of life. "Want to get dinner tonight?" she asked. I bought some fish, was going to bake it, but it's too much for one person. She was completely used to these direct invitations by now. Okay, I was finding it harder and harder to say no. "Great." She clapped her hands. "It's a date then, 7 o'clock, my place." That evening, I went to her apartment. The food was already on the table. It was surprisingly delicious. She was in high spirits, telling me all sorts of funny stories about her shop. I mostly listened, chiming in here and there. The atmosphere wasn't awkward at all. After dinner, I helped her with the dishes. She leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching me. "Liam, are you in a bad mood today?" My hands, rinsing a plate, paused. "No, but you're even quieter than usual." She tilted her head. "Am I?" "You are," she said with certainty. "Is it work? Are you tired?" "It's fine." I placed the clean plate in the drying rack. She didn't push, just said, "Well, if you're ever tired, just let me know. I don't have much, but I've got plenty of energy to share." I dried my hands and looked at her. Her face held a kind of unfiltered concern. It left me feeling a little lost. The novel illustration project wasn't going well. The author wasn't happy with my initial drafts, said the feeling was off. I revised them several times, but still couldn't meet her expectations. The editor was stuck in the middle, getting stressed. I was getting frustrated. I locked myself in my studio, staring at the blank screen of my tablet. Twisted lines, muddy colors. I couldn't draw anything. Stella knocked on my door a few times, but I didn't answer. I could hear her through the door. "Liam, I made some chamomile tea. I'm leaving it by your door." "Liam, are you okay?" "Liam, I'm heading out now. Remember to drink the tea." Her voice was muffled through the wood. I knew she meant well, but at that moment, all I wanted was to be alone. That evening, I went out to take out the trash. On my way back, I found her standing right outside my door. She was holding a new container with some kind of soup in it. She saw me and hurried over. "You finally came out." She looked me up and down, her brow furrowed. "Are you okay? You look terrible." "I'm fine," I said, taking out my keys to unlock the door. "This is what you call fine." She followed me inside. My studio was a mess, with crumpled sketches thrown everywhere. She put down the container and looked at the drawings. "Creative block?" "Yeah." I bent down to pick up a wad of paper from the floor. She didn't ask any more questions. Instead, she just started cleaning up. She gathered the scattered sketches, threw away the empty energy drink cans. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I've got nothing better to do," she replied without looking up. After she finished, she pushed me down onto the sofa and handed me the bowl of still warm soup. "Drink." It was an order. I had no choice but to lower my head and drink the soup. It was a simple, light chicken soup. She sat next to me, quietly scrolling through her phone. The only sound in the room was me sipping the soup. A strange sense of calm slowly settled over me. After I finished, my stomach felt a little warmer. "Thanks," I said. "Don't mention it." She put her phone away and looked at me. "Liam, don't put so much pressure on yourself." She paused, then added, "Your work is really good." Seriously. Her gaze was sincere, not like she was just trying to comfort me. If that author can't see it, it's her loss. I looked at her, and I felt something tightly wound inside me start to loosen. "Okay," I managed to say, "I'm getting some new sunflowers in at the shop tomorrow. They're gorgeous. Want to come see them?" She invited. "Okay, it's a date." She beamed, her eyes curving into crescents. After she left, I sat on the sofa for a long time. The room still seemed to hold a trace of the life she'd brought into it, and the smell of chicken soup. I looked out the window at the dark night sky. For the first time, the night didn't feel so hard to get through. 7. I went to her flower shop. The sunflowers were indeed beautiful, golden yellow, all facing the sun. Stella was wrapping a bouquet of roses, her fingers moving nimbly. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "You came." She waved me over. "What do you think of this?" "It's for a guy to give his girlfriend. Does the wrapping look okay?" I walked closer. Pale pink paper with champagne-colored roses. It was elegant. "Looks good," I said. "Great." She expertly tied a ribbon around it. The customer, a young guy, paid and left happily. "Not busy today?" I asked. Mornings are usually pretty slow. She poured me a glass of water. "Look around. I got to trim these leaves." She picked up a pair of shears and started working on a pile of green filler leaves. Her movements were practiced and focused. I sat on a stool in her shop, watching people walk by outside. The sunlight streamed through the window, warm and pleasant. The air was thick with the scent of flowers. It felt peacefully happy. You know, running a flower shop seems pretty nice, I said suddenly. She looked up in surprise, as if she hadn't expected me to start a conversation. Right? She grinned. It doesn't make a ton of money, but being around these flowers all day just puts you in a good mood. She put down her shears and came over to me. See that one? She said, pointing to a plant covered in tiny white blossoms. That's a pearl bush. It doesn't look like much, but it's super resilient and easy to care for. She pointed to another, and that's a phalaenopsis orchid. Super fussy, but when it blooms, it's absolutely stunning. She knew them all by heart. Every flower is different. Some like shade, some like sun. Some hate being overwatered, some are drought tolerant. You have to get to know them to take good care of them. She looked at me as she said this. Just like people, right? I looked into her bright eyes and didn't answer. She suddenly remembered something. Oh, wait here. She ran to the back and came out with a small clay pot. Inside was a tiny plum plant. This is for you. She pressed the pot into my hands. It's a jelly bean plant, one of the easiest succulents to grow. You barely have to do anything, and it'll just thrive on its own. Put on your desk. When you're tired, you can look at it. It's good for your eyes. I looked at the little thing in my hands. The green leaves were tipped with a little bit of red, like they were blushing. It did look full of life. Thanks, I said. You're welcome. She clapped her hands, looking very pleased with herself. I stayed at her shop all afternoon. I didn't do much, just watched her bustle around, occasionally lending a hand. I felt more relaxed than I had in a long time. When I left, she handed me a small bunch of chamomile. The scent is calming, she said. I went home with the jelly bean plant and the little bouquet. My desk finally had a splash of color. 8. The stalemate with the novel illustrations finally broke. I switched to a more expressive style, using large blocks of color and negative space to convey emotion. To my surprise, both the author and the editor loved it. They said it was exactly the feeling they were looking for. Work suddenly became smooth sailing. The day I submitted the final batch of illustrations and got paid, I took Stella out to dinner. A thank you for the soup and for the little succulent. She picked the place, a farm-to-table restaurant. She ordered a feast and ate with gusto. Their roasted chicken is to die for. You have to try this. She served me a piece. It was delicious. So you got your project sorted out? She asked. Yeah. I told you you could do it. She seemed even happier about it than I was. Should we get a drink to celebrate? She suggested. I got a beer. She ordered hard cider. After a few sips, she became even chattier, her cheeks flushing pink. You know, Liam, when I first met you, I thought you were impossible to get close to, she said, resting her chin on her hand. Like a cactus with all its spines out. I took a sip of my beer, saying nothing. But you're much better now, she giggled. Now you're more like a mimosa plant. You only curl up when someone touches you. The comparison was kind of funny. The corner of my mouth twitched. Look, you smiled. She pointed at me as if she'd discovered a new continent. I immediately straightened my face. So stingy. Can't even let yourself smile, she muttered, pouring herself more cider. After dinner, we walked along the riverfront. The evening breeze was cool and carried a hint of moisture. It felt nice. She was a little tipsy, swaying slightly as she walked. I instinctively walked on the side closer to the street. Liam, what do you want to do in the future? She asked. Just keep drawing forever. Yeah. Never thought about doing something else. Like having your own gallery show? Never thought about it. Well, you should think about it, she said, kicking a small pebble on the path. I think you could definitely make it. Her faith in me was always so direct, so unconditional. When we got back to our building, she suddenly stopped. There are so many stars out tonight, she said, tilting her head back. I looked up too. With the city's light pollution, you could barely see a few. But she was staring at them intently. When I was a kid, my biggest dream was to have my own backyard, so I could lie down at night and watch the stars. She said softly, and now? I asked, now? She turned to look at me, her eyes shining in the dim light. Now my dreams have multiplied. Like what? Like, I hope my flower shop can stay open forever, and I hope the people around me can all be happy. She paused, looking right into my eyes. And I hope Liam Carter can smile a little more. My heart skipped a beat. The night wind blew past, carrying the faint scent of cider and flowers from her. Neither of us spoke again. We just stood there side by side under the summer night sky. 9. After that night, something felt different. It wasn't that anything dramatic had happened between Stella and me. It was that I found I wasn't resisting her presence anymore. In fact, sometimes I'd subconsciously scan a crowd for her. Like right now. I was at the supermarket buying coffee beans when I saw a figure in a white t-shirt from behind, and my heart jumped. Then the person turned around, and it was a middle-aged woman I'd never seen before. I let out a quiet breath, half relieved, half amused at myself. Get a grip, Liam. At the checkout, I saw a display of individually wrapped lavender scones. Not too sweet, with a delicate floral scent. I remembered Stella mentioning she liked them once. On pure impulse, I grabbed a couple. It wasn't until I'd paid that I realized what I'd done, staring at the small paper bag in my hand. What was this? A friendly neighborly gesture. I guess that made sense. I was walking back with my groceries, and as I neared the building, I saw her hauling a huge box of potting soil out of the cab. The box looked heavy. She was stumbling under its weight. I'll get it. I walked over and took the box from her. It was heavy. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, her forehead shiny with sweat. Whoa, my hero, she said dramatically, shaking out her sore arms. What did you get? She asked, peeking into my grocery bag. Coffee beans and, ooh, lavender scones, she squealed with delight. You like these too? This bakery is the best. I paused for a beat, then held out the small bag to her. I got them for you. The words hung in the air. We both froze for a second. She blinked, looking from me to the bag, and then a huge grin slowly spread across her face. Really? Thanks, Liam. She took it, immediately tore open the bag, and took a small bite of scone. Just as good as I remember. She closed her eyes in satisfaction, like a cat that just got a treat. I helped her carry the box of soil into her shop. She followed behind me, chattering away while she ate. Today is totally my lucky day. So glad I ran into you. It was on my way, I said. I know. You just happened to buy them, she said, her smile deepening, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Well, thank you anyway. She held the other half of the scone up to my mouth. I flinched back instinctively. Her hand froze in midair. She didn't pull it back, just kept looking at me. The air felt thick. I looked at the small, pale scone and at her fingers lightly dusted with flour. I leaned forward and quickly took the scone from her fingertips. My lips brushed against her skin. It was feather-light, over in a second. The taste of lavender melted in my mouth. It wasn't too sweet, just fragrant. I could feel my ears getting hot. She seemed stunned for a moment, too. Then she quickly pulled her hand back and turned away, pretending to rearrange a shelf. But I saw the back of her neck. It was a little red. So, what do you want this box? I asked, clear my throat. Oh, just put it in the corner over there, she said, pointing without turning around. I set the box down, feeling like the floral scent in the shop was particularly overwhelming today. I'm heading up, I said. Okay, thanks for the scones. She finally turned around, a faint, unnatural blush still on her cheeks, but her smile was as bright as ever. Yeah, I practically fled the scene. For the next few days, I consciously avoided the flower shop during its business hours. I left early in the morning and came back late at night. I couldn't explain why. It just felt awkward. The feeling was like a small stone had been dropped into a calm lake, and the ripples just wouldn't stop spreading. On Friday afternoon, I had to go downstairs to the package locker to pick up some art supplies. I couldn't avoid her. She was standing right outside her shop watering a gardenia plant and saw me immediately. Liam, she called out. I had no choice but to walk over. Have you been busy these last few days? I haven't seen you around, she asked. Her tone was completely normal. Yeah, a bit, I mumbled. Oh, she put down the watering can and looked at me. I was starting to think you were avoiding me. My heart stuttered. No, good. She smiled as if relieved. Hey, tomorrow's Saturday. I got a new shipment of hydrangeas. The color is amazing. Want to come see them? Another invitation, her eyes full of an expectation that I was finding it increasingly difficult to refuse. I'll see if I have time tomorrow, I said noncommittally. Okay. She didn't push. Instead, she turned, went into the shop, and came back with a small glass vase holding a few fresh chamomile stems and one pale blue hydrangea. This is for you. Put it on your desk. It'll make you happy. She pressed the vase into my hand. Thanks. I took it. The floral scent was faint. Liam. She stopped me just as I was about to leave. The other day. The scone day. Thank you. She looked me in the eye, her expression serious. And I'm not just thanking you for the scone. I mean, thank you for being willing to accept it. Her voice was softer now, but clear. My heart started beating erratically again. What did she mean? Did she mean what I thought she meant? Or was I just overthinking things? I opened my mouth, but had no idea how to respond. In the end, I just nodded, turned, and walked away with my vase and my art supplies. This time, I could feel her gaze on my back the entire way, right up until I disappeared into the building. I ended up going to her shop that weekend. I couldn't tell if it was because of the flowers in the vase or because of what she had said. Or maybe I just wanted to go. The new hydrangeas were beautiful. Blues, purples, and pinks clustered together like dreamy clouds. There were a few other customers in the shop, and Stella was busy helping them. When she saw me, her eyes crinkled in a smile, and she mouthed the words, "1 second." I nodded and browsed around the shop. A little while later, the customers left, and she came over. You came, yeah, to see the hydrangeas, I said, pretending that was my only reason. Isn't this blue incredible? She asked, pointing to one. It's like the summer sky. We chatted about flowers for a bit, and the atmosphere seemed to return to our normal, neighborly dynamic. But I could feel that something subtle had changed. Like when she handed me the shears to trim a stem, her fingers would brush against mine, deliberately or not. Or when we stood side by side looking at the same plant, the distance between us was a little closer than usual. The air was filled with a delicate tension. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it made my chest feel tight. Are you free tonight? She asked suddenly. They're showing an old movie at the park downtown. I want to go. She looked at me. Want to come with? Another one of her direct invitations. I looked into her eyes, which reflected the light from the window and my own silhouette. Okay, I heard myself say. At 7:30 that evening, the park was already filling up. A large white screen was set up, and people were sitting on camp chairs or blankets on grass. They were showing a classic black and white romance, the picture slightly grainy. We found a spot in a less crowded corner and sat on the picnic blanket she brought. The evening breeze was a little cool. The movie's plot was a bit cliché, but the atmosphere was nice. During a sad scene where the main characters were parting ways, the music swelled. I felt a weight on my shoulder. I turned my head to see Stella's head resting against me. She seemed engrossed in the movie, or maybe she was pretending to be. Her hair tickled my neck. I could smell the faint floral scent in her hair, the same as the flowers on my desk. My body tensed for a second, but I didn't move. The light from a movie flickered across her face. Her eyelashes were long, fluttering slightly with each breath. I stayed like that, my shoulders starting to ache, but I didn't want to disturb her. Near the end of the movie, the hero and heroine reunited in the rain, embracing passionately. A few small cheers went up from the crowd. Stella stirred, slowly lifting her head. She rubbed her eyes and looked at me, a little embarrassed. Did I fall asleep? Yeah. Oh, sorry for using you as a pillow for so long, she said softly. It's fine, I said, rolling my stiff shoulder. The movie ended, and people started packing up to leave. We stood up and brushed the grass off our clothes. She was quiet on the walk back. As we reached our building, she said suddenly, Liam, do you think the kind of love in the movies exists in real life? What kind? You know, going through all that, and still ending up together. She stared at a dim street light ahead. I don't know, I said honestly. I think it does. She stopped walking and looked at me. It just probably takes a little courage and a whole lot of luck. In the dark, her eyes were startlingly bright. Come on, let's go up. She didn't wait for my reply, just turned and hurried into the building. I stood there for a moment, watching her disappear. The ripples in that lake inside my chest were getting bigger. The editor from the magazine called me again. She said they were interested in a long-term contract and wanted to discuss the details in person. We met at a bookstore cafe downtown. The meeting went well, and we basically finalized the deal. It was still early when I left the cafe. On an impulse, I took the light rail to a flea market on the south side of the city. I used to come here sometimes when I was in a bad mood. Looking at old things with history helped calm my mind. It was a weekday, so the market wasn't crowded. I stopped at a stall selling old books, flipping through some yellowed art catalogs. Liam, a female voice, vaguely familiar but hesitant, came from behind me. I turned around and saw a woman in a beige trench coat. It was the author from the novel project, Evelyn. Her face showed a polite mixture of surprise and pleasure. It really is you. What a coincidence. Ms. Reed, I nodded. Do you like coming here too? She asked, stepping closer. Her gaze fell on the art book in my hands. Occasionally, I said. It's a fascinating place. You can find some real treasures here, she said in a gentle tone, one that spoke of a certain kind of intellectual grace. Your illustrations, by the way, the editor and I were both so pleased. The reader feedback has been excellent. She changed the subject. Thank you. You're very talented, Liam, she said, looking me in the eye with sincerity. The style just fit the project. I was never good at taking direct compliments. Don't be so modest, she smiled. Actually, there's a small art salon next month, just some friends in the industry. Would you be interested in coming? My immediate instinct was to say no. I'm not good at social events like that. I don't enjoy them. It's very casual, just a chance to chat, she added, as if sensing my hesitation. And it's always good to network. It could be beneficial for your career. She handed me an elegant-looking card. The time and place are on here. If you're free, we'd love to have you. I took the card. It was for an art space on the west side. I'll think about it, I said, not committing. Great. She didn't press. After a few more pleasantries, she excused herself and left. I looked at the invitation in my hand. The cardstock was nice, but I felt nothing. Except, it did make me think of Stella. She'd said once that she was curious about places like that she'd never been to one. It was getting dark by the time I got back to my neighborhood. I saw that the lights in the flower shop were still on, but the door was closed. Through the glass, I could see Stella sitting at a small table inside, her head bent over, looking like she was sketching something. I hesitated for a moment, then pushed the door open. The small bell on the door chimed. She looked up. A smile immediately lit up her face when she saw me, but it didn't seem as bright as usual. You're back. She put down her pencil. Yeah. I walked closer and saw several crumpled design sketches on her table, next to a set of colored pencils. What are you working on? Trying to design some new bouquet styles, but I'm out of inspiration, she sighed, rubbing her temples. This is so hard. I picked up one of the sketches. It was a complex European-style arrangement, not at all like her usual clean and fresh aesthetic. Why this style? I asked. She was quiet for a moment, then said with a hint of resignation, a new flower shop opened up on the next block. Their style is very extravagant. They've poached a lot of my business, and my landlord came by the other day. He's raising the rent next quarter. She forced a smile. I have to do something, right? Can't just sit here and wait. Seeing the exhaustion under her eyes, I felt a pang in my chest. The ever-energetic Stella had her own worries, too. Don't force it, I said. Your style is great. You don't need to copy someone else. She stared at me, surprised. Really? Yeah. The customers who like your style will come for it, I said. She looked at me, and her eyes slowly started to shine again. You're right. She crumpled up the failed sketches and tossed them in the trash. I should just be myself. Why try to be a cheap imitation? It was like she had been instantly recharged. Thank you, Liam, she said, smiling. Are you hungry? I ordered takeout, want to share. It's pizza, to celebrate me getting my confidence back. She waved her phone at me. I looked at her smile and felt something inside me soften. Okay, I said. The food arrived quickly. We ate right there at the small table in her shop. She ate slice after slice, occasionally putting a piece of pepperoni from her pizza onto mine. You eat yours. I can get my own, I said. It's fine. I've got too many, she said with a grin. The shop filled with the scent of pepperoni and garlic, mixed with the fragrance of flowers. It was a strange but cozy combination. After we finished the pizza, we cleaned up the mess together. Our hands were greasy. She went to wash up while I packed the trash. While the water was running, I noticed a small notebook lying open on the corner of the table. It wasn't a sketchbook. It looked more like a journal. I didn't mean to look, but a breeze from the open door flipped a page. It was dated, with just a few short lines of neat handwriting. Liam ate pizza with me today. He doesn't seem to push me away as much anymore. That's so good. My heart hammered against my ribs like it had been struck. I quickly looked away, pretending I hadn't seen anything. But those words were seared into my brain. She, she had been writing about this, about these tiny, insignificant moments with me. She came back from washing her hands, her face still damp. All done. She saw me standing by the table, and she casually closed a notebook and put it back in a drawer. Come on, let's go upstairs. I ordered some ice cream from that place downstairs to be delivered to my apartment. It's amazing. She seemed completely oblivious. I followed her upstairs, my mind a chaotic mess. The artisan ice cream was sweet, with chunks of brownie and swirls of caramel, but I barely tasted it. She was already excitedly planning new bouquet designs, talking about adding more personal touches. I watched her animated face, but my mind kept replaying the words from her journal. He doesn't seem to push me away as much anymore. That's so good. So, she had noticed every tiny change in me, and it made her happy. This feeling of being seen, of being carefully documented by someone, was both foreign and overwhelming. It was like a warm current, instantly wrapping around my heart. What's wrong? You're a million miles away. She finally noticed my distraction. Nothing, I said, putting my spoon down. Just a little tired. Oh, well, you should get some rest then. She didn't seem to suspect anything. I stood up to leave. As I got to the door, she called out, Liam. I turned back. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And for what you said. She stood in the warm light of her apartment, her gaze soft. Yeah, I replied and closed the door. Back in my own cold, quiet apartment, the warmth she'd brought with her seemed to linger. I looked at the vase of chamomile and hydrangeas on my desk, blooming quietly under the lamplight. And next to it, the small, resilient jelly bean plant. I didn't know when it had started, but my life was now full of traces she had left behind, and I didn't think I minded at all. The following week, I got a rush job and spent nearly every waking hour in my studio. Stella didn't bother me much, but she sent a few texts every day. Sometimes it was a picture of a new flower in her shop, asking if I thought it was pretty. Sometimes it was a funny story about a customer. And sometimes it was just a simple, have you eaten? Or don't stay up too late. My replies were usually short, but she didn't seem to mind. This constant but not too intrusive connection felt like a thin thread between us. It reminded me, in the middle of my exhausting work, that I wasn't completely alone. The day I submitted the project, I slept for the entire afternoon. I woke up to a dark sky outside. There was an unread message from Stella on my phone, sent 3 hours ago. Free tonight. I want to take you somewhere. It was followed by a cute emoji. I rubbed my eyes and typed back. Just woke up. Where to? She replied almost instantly. It's a secret, but it's a great place, I promise. Meet downstairs at 7. I thought about it. I didn't have any other plans. Okay. At 7, I was downstairs. She was already waiting, dressed in a simple t-shirt and jeans with a backpack slung over her shoulders, looking full of energy. Let's go. She led me, not toward the bus stop, but down a small alley behind our building. I rarely walked this way. It got quieter and more deserted as we went. Where are we going? I had to ask again. Almost there, she said with a mysterious smile. We came out of the alley, and the view opened up. We were at a small, abandoned railroad switching yard. The tracks were rusted, and weeds grew between the wooden ties. But next to the tracks was a small, open patch of ground with a perfect view of the glittering city skyline in the distance. What do you think? My secret spot, she said proudly, pulling a picnic blanket from her backpack and spreading it on the ground. Then, like a magician, she produced a few cans of beer and a bag of chips. Sit. She sat down first, patting the spot next to her. I sat down. The evening wind blew past, carrying the scent of grass and earth. The city was a distant hum, but it was incredibly quiet here. When I'm in a bad mood, I like to come here, she said, opening a can of beer and handing it to me. You look at all those lights, and it makes you feel like the world is so big, and your own problems are so small. I took a sip of the cold beer. I didn't speak, but I agreed with her. We sat side by side, watching the horizon, taking occasional sips of beer. No one spoke, but the silence wasn't awkward at all. Liam, she said softly, suddenly. I turned to look at her. Her profile was soft in the twilight. You know, you're different from when I first met you. She turned to face me, her eyes shining. How am I different? I asked. I can't quite put my finger on it, she thought for a moment. It's just, you're not as cold anymore. Like an ice cube slowly melting into water. She gestured with her hands. You're still quiet, but you feel warmer. Her description was childlike, but strangely accurate. It was a change I hadn't even noticed in myself. It's probably because of you. The words left my mouth before I could think. After I said it, we both froze. The air seemed to solidify. The only sounds were the distant traffic and the rustle of wind through the tall grass. I could hear my own heart pounding like a drum. Stella stared at me, her eyes wide with disbelief and a flicker of joy. Her cheeks turned red so fast you could actually see it happen. What? What did you just say? She stammered. The words were out. There was no taking them back. I took a deep breath, avoiding her intense gaze, and looked out at the city lights. I said, it's probably because of you. I repeated the sentence, my voice quiet but startlingly clear in the twilight. This time she heard me. She didn't respond right away, just kept looking at me. I could feel her gaze on the side of my face, almost a physical touch. After what felt like an eternity, she finally asked, her voice soft and a little uncertain. Liam, are you hitting on me? The question was so blunt it made my own ears burn. How was I supposed to answer that? Admit it, deny it. My fingers tightened around the beer can, cold condensation beating on the metal. I don't know, I said. It was the truth. I didn't know if it counted as hitting on her. I had just spoken the truth of that moment. She suddenly let out a low laugh, her shoulders shaking slightly. You're unbelievable, she said, her voice a mix of playful annoyance and sweetness. Hitting on someone and then saying you don't know. I turned to look at her. She was looking back at me, her eyes curved into crescents, her face flushed and incredibly alive in the dimming light. Well, I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Whatever. She waved her hand and took a big gulp of beer, as if to hide her expression. Since you actually complimented me, I'll let slide. The atmosphere between us had shifted. It was ambiguous, tinged with a sweet, fumbling uncertainty. We didn't bring it up again, just sat side by side, watching the stars slowly appear. But some things, once said, can never be unsaid. I could feel the invisible barrier between us had become paper thin. On the way back, we walked closer than usual. Our arms would occasionally brush against each other, sending a tiny jolt through me. No one spoke, but the air was thick with a comfortable, unspoken understanding. When we got her door, she took out her keys, but didn't unlock it right away. Liam, yeah, tonight. I had a really good time, she said, looking me straight in the eye. Yeah, me too, I said. She smiled, turned, and went inside. Just before the door closed, she poked her head back out. Good night. Good night. After that night, Stella and I entered a strange, ambiguous phase. It was strange because neither of us tried to break through that final layer of uncertainty. But the way we interacted had quietly changed. She would link her arm through mine to cross the street, and it felt natural. I would automatically carry her bag, and I remembered that she hated cilantro. When we went out to eat, she would casually steal a French fry from my plate. When I was drawing, she would sit nearby and read a book, occasionally glancing up at me with a secret smile. The feeling was like the slow, inevitable transition from winter to spring. Warm, gradual, and unstoppable. Then, one day, I got a call from Evelyn Reed. It was the official invitation for the art salon she'd mentioned, and she was asking again if I would attend. I had almost forgotten about it, and was about to politely decline, but then I glanced at my calendar and realized the salon was on Stella's birthday. An idea sparked in my mind. I knew Stella was curious about that kind of event. Maybe I could take her as a birthday surprise. The thought surprised even me. When had I become the kind of person who plans surprises? But the thought of her happy face made me feel excited. Ms. Reed, I said into the phone, thank you for the invitation. I'll be there. That's wonderful. Her voice was pleased. We'll look forward to seeing you. After hanging up, I started trying to figure out how to invite Stella without giving away the surprise. This was difficult for me. Just saying, I'm taking you somewhere. Too blunt. I needed a plan. Just then, my doorbell rang. It was Stella, holding a paper bag and wearing a mischievous grin. Liam, you have to try this on. She pulled 2 t-shirts out of the bag. They were simple, solid colors, but on the chest were 2 cute, cartoon-like portraits. Looking closer, I realized they were simple, line-drawing versions of her and me. I had a friend who's a designer make them. Matching couple shirts, she said excitedly, holding her shirt up to her chest. See, doesn't it look just like us? I looked at the shirt. The cartoon version of her was smiling with crescent moon eyes, and next to her was a cartoon me with a slightly stoic expression. When did you do this? I asked, surprised. Secret, she winked. Come on, try it on. See if it fits. She handed me my shirt and pushed me toward my bedroom. You wait out here, I said. Oh, don't be shy. It's not like I'm going to peek, she said, but she retreated to the living room with a giggle. I changed into the t-shirt. The fabric was soft, and it fit perfectly. Looking in the mirror at the silly but heartwarming cartoon on my chest, I felt a strange warmth spread through me. When I walked out, she had changed into hers, too, and was admiring herself in the hallway mirror. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. Wow, it's a perfect fit. She ran over to stand next to me, and we looked at our reflections together. The same t-shirts, with our cartoon selves on them. The real us, standing together. See, we match perfectly, she said proudly, subconsciously leaning a little closer to me. In the mirror, our shoulders were touching. A quiet intimacy flowed through the air. By the way, I said, looking at her smiling reflection, suddenly remembering the salon. Are you free the day after tomorrow, in the evening? The day after tomorrow? Yeah, it's my birthday, of course I'm free. She turned to face me, her eyes full of expectation. You remember my birthday? Yeah, I nodded. There's this event, an art salon. I was wondering if you'd want to go with me. I try to make my tone as casual as possible. An art salon? Her interest was immediately piqued. It's just a bunch of people getting together, talking about art, looking at paintings. I explained. That sounds so fancy. Can I really go? Her eyes were shining. Yeah, I'll take you, I said. That's amazing. She practically bounced with excitement and grabbed my arm. Liam, you're the best.